Hey everyone, hope your day is going well. We are back with another reaction. We're gonna learn a little bit more about Tomorrow Never Knows, which is, of course, a song by the Beatles. I've just finished reacting to all songs on Revolver on Patreon. I've now done the first 7 albums by the Beatles, song by song. And that's the last one on the album, right? But I believe somebody told me that was actually the first song they recorded for this album. Very interesting. Great way to end an album. And it's trippy, it's psychedelic, the sound of the future here, it says, philosophical lyrics, it is being, that, come on, it is knowing. I love that type of stuff. And really, uh, enjoy that song tremendously. And someone, or a few people actually shared this with me, this video, how the Beatles invented the sound of the future. So I'm definitely interested in learning a little bit more about how they made it. I think somebody told me some instruments were played in reverse or recordings were reversed. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So let's see what this video tells us about Tomorrow Never Knows and how the Beatles approach this.
Tomorrow Never Knows is arguably the most pivotal song of the Beatles' career. It's a mind-bending 3-minute collage of sonic experiments that helped kick open the doors to a bold new era for popular music.
Turn off your mind, relax and float downstream.
It's also packed with production quirks, anomalies, and even a few unsolved mysteries. In this episode, I'm going to take you through the fascinating recording history of Tomorrow Never Knows and dissect some of these curiosities. As a fair warning, once I point them out, you can't unhear this.
Oh, no.
Tomorrow Never Knows is the final song on the Beatles' landmark 1966 album Revolver. Despite appearing last on the album, Tomorrow Never Knows was actually the first song that the band worked on for the Revolver sessions, following an unprecedented 5-month-long break after their previous album, Rubber Soul.
Unprecedented 5-month-long break, which is, for them, a long break, I imagine. The work ethic, we reacted to a video, or I reacted to a video about that, right? And when I'm going through these albums on Patreon, I see the release dates, like, wow, incredible. Like 5 months is long for them. Rubber Soul, I must say, woof. I don't know how to pick a favorite between the last 3 I've checked. Help, Rubber Soul, Revolver. So many great songs on these albums. Just, yeah.
After a much-needed reset and some encounters with LSD, the band was brimming with new ideas. Among them, a new song concept from John that defied pretty much every convention of pop music at the time. The lyrics didn't rhyme, the chord progression didn't really progress, and instead of romantic love, the subject matter was expanding one's psychic consciousness through ego death.
Right.
Naturally,
I did read about that. It was the psychedelic experience. I haven't read those books by Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert and stuff. It was another book that this was inspired by, I believe, no?
The recording process would also be anything but normal. The band assembled at EMI Studios on April 6, 1966, to collaborate on John's new composition, which at this stage was known as The Void, and listed on studio documentation as Mark I. An important new addition to the supporting team at EMI was a young, creative, and ambitious engineer named Jeff Emmerich, who would help pioneer many of the innovative recording techniques used on the Revolver sessions and beyond. First order of Beatle business, Jeff would indulge the band's newfound curiosity with tape loops, inspired by the musique concrète movement that used recorded sounds to create avant-garde sound collages. For their first attempt on The Void, the band recorded a short loop of guitars and drums, which was then slowed down and drenched in echo to create a droning backing track. Jeff's other engineering task was to satisfy John's request of making his voice sound like the Dalai Lama chanting from a mountaintop.
Right, it's very meditative.
His solution was to pump John's voice through a Leslie speaker, which was normally paired with an organ to create a vibrato effect through the use of a revolving chamber. Pardon the pun.
Now, hey, I see what you did there. Hey, sticking in with the album theme.
Satisfied with the Dalai Lenin transformation, John recorded a vocal track on top of the existing guitar and drum loop. Meanwhile, Paul and Ringo added a bass and drum track. There was a small problem with this approach, however. The backing loop drifted increasingly out of sync with the overdubbed live parts. Keep in mind, in the pre-digital era, everything had to be timed manually. Digital tools like Autotune were still decades away. Facing this challenge, the band scrapped this initial idea, but would revisit using tape loops in a slightly different way soon. Returning to their usual method of...
That's interesting. I love how this video also puts it into context and its place and its time. Because when I try to learn as much as I can when I go through these reactions, but usually it's after the fact because I like to go in blind and not know too much ahead of time. Because, when you were experiencing the songs at the time, you didn't know everything you know now, did you? Sometimes people expect me to go on an entire journey learning about before, but did you learn beforehand, before you listened to the song first time, 60 years ago? But I do love that this puts it into the context of, in terms of what technology existed or didn't exist at the time. Because going now, you react to something in 2025, you don't know necessarily when Autotune was invented or any other type of technology. Could be just 5 years later, could be 20 years later. I don't know every date of certain technologies, right? So I love that, to learn about how avant-garde it was at the time. I know it was, but it's hard when you're arriving at a party 60 years later.
Different way soon.
Super fascinating.
Returning to their usual method of live recording, the four Beatles, John on vocals, George on tambourine, Paul on bass, and Ringo on drums, made 2 attempts at a suitable backing track, settling on the second one, labeled Take 3, as the final. Contrary to some accounts, Ringo's hypnotic drum part here is not a tape loop. It's 100% live Ringo, and it's frankly amazing.
His timing is incredible.
Tape loops did come back into the picture at this point. Before heading home that night, Paul suggested a new idea, that the band record their own tape loops and bring them to EMI the next day. With tape segments of random sounds in hand, the band returned to EMI on April 7th and sorted through their overnight creation.
That's kind of wild, there's dates. Because that's, my daughter's born on that day. Not in 66, of course, because my own mom was only 1 year old at the time. But, quite a few years later.
Of the many options, they settled on 5 that would make it into the final song. Due to the heavy saturation and other manipulation, there's some debate over what these original sounds were. But I'll play a snippet of how each one sounds when isolated. Here's the first, which is typically cited as Paul's voice sped up to sound like a seagull. The second,
Or a
an
dolphin.
orchestra,
I don't know.
sped up. The third, notes played on a mellotron, sped up.
Oh,
The fourth,
that's a great sound.
more notes played on a mellotron, sped up. And fifth, a sitar.
Right.
Reversed and sped up.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
Unlike with
I was wondering what that was. Okay, so that's a sitar reversed and sped up. That is so crazy. That's super creative, man. Super creative. I love
digital
it.
sampling, creating and adding these loops in this analog environment was a formidable challenge. Each loop was
how do you do
simultaneously
that?
fed into a separate tape machine, while the various loops
Wow.
were routed to the main mixing console. The band, sitting at the mixing board, conducted a live performance of all of these incoming loops, fading up and fading down the different sounds at different moments. The marvelous
This is like Frankensteining a song, man. Oh, wow. The build of this, the construction of this.
result of
That
their
is
efforts
awesome.
wound
Love
up on track 2 of the 4-track master tape. After the exhausting tape loop session, the band decided to take a break from The Void and work on a few other songs, including George's new song Taxman, which would become relevant to the completion of Tomorrow Never Knows, but more on that later.
Oh, really?
On April 22nd, 2 weeks after the tape loop session, the band revisited Tomorrow Never Knows to add some finishing touches. To enhance the song's psychedelic ambiance, they added 2 sonic elements to the backdrop: a simple organ part and second, an Indian instrument called a tambura, heard clearly during the lead-in and continuing throughout the song.
Yeah.
Also on this day, John re-recorded his main vocal track, but with different effects applied to the first and second sections. For the first half, he double-tracked his vocals. That is, sang it through twice to help enhance the sound of his voice.
Lay down all thoughts, surrender to the void.
Then, for the second half of the song, his voice was put through the Leslie speaker to get the vibrato effect he used on take 1.
That love is all and love is everyone.
So if you listen carefully, you'll notice 2 distinct vocal treatments in the song, separated by the solo section in the middle.
It is not dying. It is not living.
Speaking of that middle solo section, which at this point featured a bunch of tape loops, they decided to add another Beatle first here, a backwards guitar solo. There's a debate, however, over who actually played this scorching backwards solo.
Really?
According to the official booklet inside the Revolver Deluxe Edition, George Harrison is playing lead guitar here. But when the backwards solo is reversed to the original direction, it sounds strikingly similar to the guitar solo from Taxman, the first song on Revolver. Taxman was indeed a George Harrison song, but the guitar solo on Taxman was actually performed by Paul. Not coincidentally, that session took place the night before the Tomorrow Never Knows solo was added.
Wow. Yo, these dates are wild, yo. People are going to know my entire family history. That's actually my own mother's first birthday. Her first birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
The 2 solos sound so similar that
Yeah.
some people believe it's actually copied from the same recording. Upon closer analysis, the 2 solos don't line up exactly, but they definitely share an identical style and sound, meaning it was likely Paul playing both, contrary to the liner notes. Regardless of who's actually playing, the 2 similar solos form a clever link from the last track on Revolver to the first, bookending the album. There's also a fascinating little analog-era quirk caused by this innovative backwards solo. As I mentioned earlier, John double-tracked his vocals in the first section. But the last word of the first section is mysteriously missing the double-tracking right before the solo section begins.
It is being. It is being.
So what happened here?
It's
Well,
more
this
clear,
anomaly
yeah.
can be explained by analyzing how the solo made it onto the original multi-track tape. John's primary vocal was recorded on track 4. His double-tracked vocal was recorded to track 3, along with the tambourine and organ. Given the limited tape space and a 4-track setup, the backwards guitar solo was also overdubbed onto track 3, in the 30-second gap between John's 2 main vocal sections. But to get the backwards sounding effect to work, the guitar solo was played forwards, with the multi-track tape recording in reverse. So here's what likely happened. At the very end of the guitar solo overdub, an EMI engineer simply punched out a bit too late, copying over the last snippet of John's double-tracked vocal, along with the tambourine and organ,
Interesting.
which were also on track 3. You can hear all 3 drop out a bit too early before the solo section begins.
It is being.
Right, I could hear that.
Unlike in a modern digital recording studio, once it happened, they couldn't undo this. So this happy little accident was left in, as a neat little artifact
Cool.
of the analog recording era. Before wrapping up, they included one final touch to close out the song, a random bit of honky-tonk piano that had been recorded a few weeks earlier. With that, the recording of Tomorrow Never Knows, still titled Mark I at this point, was complete. But as usual, the anomalies didn't end there. At the time, Beatles songs were mixed for 2 separate versions, single-channel mono, which was the dominant format at the time, and 2-channel stereo, which was still a more experimental format. Because these different versions were often created during different sessions, and the band only reviewed the mono mixes, this led to some odd variations between the two mixes. On the mono mix, you'll notice different patterns in where the tape loops come in, different effects on the guitar solo, and even a few extra seconds of honky-tonk piano at the end. Interestingly, a small batch of the first mono pressings of Revolver in the UK were mistakenly released with a different mono mix of the song. As you can imagine, those early misprints are now collectible.
Whoa, yeah, I can
For
imagine.
the stereo version,
Dang.
my favorite quirk is a seemingly random
Who has one of
high-pitched
those?
noise heard about halfway through. This little anomaly is actually a bit of guitar feedback from the backwards solo that was likely left in by mistake. Ironically, now that stereo has become the preferred distribution format, it's weird to hear this mistake missing from the mono version. The last bit to be addressed was the song's title, which isn't found in the lyrics at all.
Oh,
Instead,
right.
John
That was I heard that was Ringo. That came from Ringo. Is that correct?
borrowed it from an offhand remark Ringo made in 1964.
I heard about this.
Tomorrow never knows.
On August 5th,
which is of course, yeah, tomorrow already. The word tomorrow already implies that it doesn't know. So I love that title. You know, it adds that never knows because it's true, but it also almost makes it redundant to say never knows because tomorrow is unknown by definition.
1966, Revolver hit store shelves, with Tomorrow Never Knows sequenced last, marking the summit of this extraordinary album.
Great.
Tomorrow
Great.
Never Knows was, in a word, unconventional,
Right.
but its brilliance was also immediately apparent. George Harrison called it easily the most amazing new thing we've ever come up with. An early review
man.
mentioned the song specifically
Every right
as
to be
among,
proud of
quote,
that.
the most revolutionary ever made by a pop group. No other song in their career marked such an abrupt shift, like stepping from a black and white world into full color. I find it incredible that this piece of transcendent music emerged less than 3 years after She Loves You. The song's innovative use of the recording studio paved the way for countless other groundbreaking hits in their catalog.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going.
Heavy reliance
I
on
still need to
studio
get to
production,
those.
however, made it virtually impossible for the band to play these songs live. No matter as they had decided to give up touring altogether in late 1966, never having played any songs from the Revolver album live. In subsequent years, many other artists have performed creative covers of the song, including Phil Collins,
Really?
Brian Eno, and Phil Manzanera, Los Lobos, even John's son Sean, fronting the Claypool Lennon Delirium. It was also used to great effect in the AMC television series Mad Men to signal the vast generational shift in culture taking
I've
place in
seen
the
the first
mid-1960s.
episode.
The entire Revolver album
it.
has
I
risen
need
in
to go
appreciation
back.
over the past few decades for being a watershed moment, not only in the Beatles' career, but in music history. In a year of landmark genre-defying albums from artists such as the Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan,
I love
the
Pet
Byrds,
Sounds.
Frank Zappa, and many more. Revolver stands tall among giants. Like its cover art, the album is an eclectic collage from Texas and Yellow Submarines to the sounds of India and Motown. Its grand finale, Tomorrow Never Knows, was the launch pad into the psychedelic universe that would define the following year's Summer of Love. Listen more closely and you can hear the future of electronic music emanating from its thunderous pulse. Tomorrow Never Knows might not be the most well-known Beatles song, but to me, it's the most rewarding listening experience of their career. In less than 3 spectacular minutes, this groundbreaking production transports you to another dimension by way of a piece of
it
ancient
does.
wisdom
It
that
does.
seems more relevant today than ever before.
Turn off your mind, relax and float downstream.
So what do you think of Tomorrow Never Knows and its many anomalies? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching and for subscribing.
Yeah, great video. The link to the original will be in the description if you haven't seen that. I see another great video here that I might need to check out about Here Comes the Sun. So yeah. This is a great, so well made. And I already tremendously enjoyed the song the first time I heard it, but learning more about a little bit about the creative process and how they went about it even deepens that appreciation, right? The hard work they put in and stuff, and how how revolutionary it was at the time, and how pioneering in all these firsts and just following creative instincts, right? I love that. Cool. Tomorrow never knows. Indeed. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.